we've got most of our members here at the moment. I was expecting a few guests to arrive, but they look like they haven't come in. So they may come in during your presentation. But what we're doing is everyone will be muted while you're talking, so there's no background interference coming through.
Okay.
And once you finish your presentation, we'll unmute, and I'm sure most people will then ask you a few questions.
Okay, so you know your camera's a bit, I'm getting your ear or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm unshaven, so I don't want to. I don't want to scare you.
No, that's okay. I'm not that easily scared. So as you know, I'm still getting used to using this, so I'll hopefully get my screen working and everything. Should be all right.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just introduce you, and then
Sure.
you can go from there. So Silvana commenced with Probus in November of 2007 as its financial controller, and was promoted to CEO in February 2016. Prior to commencing at Probus, Silvana had a 15-year career at the NRMA, holding various roles, including accounting and financial planning administration. Silvana resigned from her role as operations manager of NRMA's financial products in 2001 to raise her family. She then returned to the workforce in November of 2007 at Probus South Pacific. Silvana is Ugandan by birth and came to Australia with her family at a very young age, and she is married and has 2 boys. I've actually known Silvana for most of the time that she's been at Probus, and the bio that she supplied us is very brief, but I think it also shows that she is a lot more than what is in this small bio. She's a very nice person to work with, has a good direction, and Probus has very much gained from her time there, and it will grow in future with her benefits of her great leadership. So I have passed you over now to Silvana.
Hello, everybody. How are we? I think they're all muted, so they're waving, so that's fantastic. I'm going to try and get my stuff on my screen, so bear with me. Screen, I think turned off. Share. Fantastic. Got another face there, I think. Oh, you want to see what's on my, just let me, hopefully you're seeing a presentation now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you seeing that, Barry?
Yeah,
people are nodding their head. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. I haven't used GoToMeeting before, but I'm sure we'll work through it. Thank you, Barry, for that very nice introduction. Yes, my bio was a bit brief. And just a small correction, I'm from Uruguay, so Uruguayan by birth. Came here when I was about 3 years old, and won't say how long I've been here, so you can't catch me out for my age. But let me talk a little bit about Probus. Although I think Keith might have been able to talk a little bit about Probus. I understand he's instrumental in his district in getting Probus up and running. But Probus is actually all about fun, friendship and fellowship in retirement. And when I first started back in 2007, I actually met, the first time I met one of our foundation members, which is Bob Burnett, and asked him why he started Probus. And he said it was supposed to be Rotary without the work. And that really resonated with me, because it was supposed to be about Rotarians that did their life of service in Rotary and then moved on to Probus when they had finished doing their service in Rotary. And that's not what's happening today. Clearly, there's a lot of Rotarians and Probians that are in both, and there's a lot of Rotarians staying in Rotary longer, but also enjoying the benefit of Probus as well. So a little bit about the genesis of Probus, if you like, of when it started. It started had 2 ancestors in the campus club in 1965, and then the first Probus club was formed in 1966, actually in Caterham in the UK, and the original concept of the name, or the basis of the name at that time, was made up of professional and business, because it was about Rotarians finishing their life of service. It was also about professional businessmen getting together and talking about the ways of the world, if you like. It's no longer about that anymore. Probus is open to everybody that's retired or semi-retired, and although we're very proud of our history in terms of professional and business, it's not just about that anymore. So both were, as I said, both were formed about companionship, mental stimulation. Probus is absolutely huge right now, and it did explode in Australia when we first started, and in New Zealand, but it is everywhere, and I believe there are at least 400. You can't, not everybody tells you exactly how many members they have, but I believe that there are at least around 400,000 Probians in the world, but a substantial part of them here in Australia and New Zealand. So that's a little bit about that. In Australia and New Zealand, the first Probus club that was started was in Kapiti Coast in New Zealand in 1974, and proud to say that that club is still going strong. They recently celebrated their 45-year anniversary, and they've still got around 150 members, so it's fantastic. The second Probus club in Australia, or the first Probus club in Australia rather, was Hunters Hill, and they're still going strong after 43 years, nearly 44, and they've got just over 100 members. So they're doing really, really well also. The first Probus club for women, yes, unfortunately Probus was started with just men. But the first Probus club for women in 1982 for both Australia and New Zealand. So that's fantastic, and obviously now the last few clubs, or over the last few years rather, we don't form any more single gender clubs because there hasn't really been a need for them. We do have at least 400 single gender clubs still across both Australia and New Zealand, but the majority of clubs that we've formed over the last few years are all combined, so they accept both men and women. And our membership today is about just over 1,700 clubs with over about 123,000 members. So quite a large membership. It has been bigger and has been larger, and mainly because when you start to grow, eventually you plateau. And a lot of those clubs that we formed many, many years ago were the average age of 65, 20 or 30 years later, their average age is a lot higher. And so recruitment is really, really important to continue to do that, to ensure you've got a steady stream of members. So our highest peak was at about 2007 when we had about 190,000 members. So it has been slowly going down, but we are turning, well, prior to COVID-19, we were turning that around. Unfortunately, now that's created a few issues clearly. But the model, and certainly the desire to have those face-to-face connections, particularly in retirement, are very, very important. Hopefully I'm not going too fast with everyone muted. I can't really tell, but anyway. In terms of what Probus is, there's a little bit of pictures there, and these are all Probians having some fun. It is about just meeting together. It's about giving you that social interaction, which is really, really important. Not that long ago, I went on the radio and had the opportunity to talk to somebody about how we focus so much on our financial well-being, and almost everything you hear about retirement has been about making sure, when you're planning for it, making sure that your financial well-being and that you're going to have enough money for the rest of your life. And that's really, really important. But just as important as our financial well-being is our social well-being. And so I often talk about my own dad, who, when he retired, his social network was his life, and a lot of the friends he had there were at work. And so when he retired, that stopped. And at that time, I didn't know about Probus. It was a very long time ago. I didn't know that Probus, and that was in probably, you know, not around Probus's peak, but it would have been pretty big back then. And I think he would have enjoyed his retirement more had he had that opportunity to connect with people at a different level. So it really, really is important to have those physical face-to-face connections. I think currently we're going to be teaching our members to connect in different ways because they're all very isolated right now. And and that's very important, it's never going to, in my opinion, replace that face-to-face reason to get out of the house and go and have a chin wag and a cup of tea and talk to other people about, you know, similar things that are going on in their lives at the moment. So as I said, it's open to anyone, and one of the most important parts of Probus is they listen to guest speakers. So generally what happens is they have monthly meetings. At that monthly meeting, they'll have a morning tea, they'll have a guest speaker, they'll have some activities in terms of, you know, things that they're going on. They might play some games or do a few things like that, but they're normally organising a lot of their activities. And then it's a once a month meeting, but the busiest Probus club has an activity on, outside of COVID, of course, an activity on every single day of the week, which is fantastic to hear. I think that's extreme. They're not all like that, but usually find there are quite regular activities. And the activities range from lots of things. It's not just about physical activity, it's also mental stimulation as well, because the successful Probus club has a range of activities that suit the active and the not so active. So my mum's 87 and her idea of activities is pottering around in the garden and the occasional bus trip. She's not one that's going to get on a plane and fly for a 2-week trip somewhere, which a lot of our Probus clubs do together, but certainly not now. But Probus is essentially about activity. It's about mental stimulation as well as that physical activity, and overall, you know, social and healthy well-being. I think as usual, I step ahead of myself on my slides, and they engage in a wide range of activities designed to keep them mentally, socially, and physically active. And as I said before, social well-being is just as important as the financial one. There are so many studies that show that if retirees rather are members of a social group, they are at least 20% likely to develop things like anxiety, depression, and all of those other things that come with those sorts of challenges. So really, really important to have that mental stimulation. We directly benefit the community. We are Rotary's most successful activity for seniors, and every single email that I send out under my signature, my byline is that we are very proud of our association with Rotary, and we are the most successful activity and continue to be, I think, and very proud of that association. And we benefit the community that way, because if members are active and they're healthy, they are less inclined, as I touched on before, to develop the anxiety and the depression. So that does put a bit of less pressure on the health purse of the government, I think. And I think we are a community that can also help Rotary as well. I know of a number of clubs or individuals from clubs that participate in Rotary's fundraising and a whole range of things. And every time there is something going on, like bushfires or the drought or floods, and we've had all of that in the last few months, what we're always saying in our communication to clubs is, when they say, how do we help? We say, go to your local Rotary club and talk to them, because they're the experts in knowing how to help the community. We're all about the fun. We're not political, and we're non-sectarian as well. So we don't get involved in any of that. We are all just about having some fun. Why join a Probus club? I think I've covered a lot of that. It's the fun and the friendship, the local meetings, the guest speakers, and I encourage you all, if you haven't, visit your local Probus club and go along as a guest speaker. Activities, we've got an exclusive Probus travel insurance policy, which was going pretty well up until about a couple of months ago. We have the Active Retirees publication, which is our national publication, and we also have a member benefit scheme where there are some exclusive discounts. Personally, I think the benefits you get out of joining Probus are enough, but members tend to like having a few discounts along the way, so I think we're all a little bit like that. So we do have a member benefit scheme for them as well. And I think they're all real Probians having some fun, and just wanted to show you a little bit about what they all do. And these are some types of activities, that they do, but there's a whole range of them. And generally speaking, if a Probus club doesn't have an activity, there's always someone along that's interested in doing it that'll come along and start one. That's a little bit about how you join Probus, and I think that's me, Barry. If you want to open up to questions, that would be good.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, Silvana.
Hopefully, I didn't talk too fast again.
No. That's all. Well, our scribe Malcolm was the one he was taking all the notes down, so if he was able to keep up, he was okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So how are Probus clubs coping with the COVID, seeing that they are meeting once a month?
Oh, look, they're right in the firing line, aren't they? They're the demographic that is the most affected. Look, there are some clubs that are finding some very innovative ways to get together. A lot of them are using things like Zoom and video chat on Facebook, and we've had clubs that have held some of their meetings that way, just like this. And you know, it is unfortunate. No, well, unfortunate is a really bad word to say, but it is scary to think about how long this will last, because we have some members that aren't connected, that don't use the internet or Facebook or even email. So it's those members that we worry about. But, you know, a lot of clubs have got phone trees in place, and we're encouraging a lot of that. We've just developed a new newsletter to keep in touch with all of our clubs and our members called Staying Connected with Probus. So, and we're going to put out some puzzles and all some different things that can keep them all engaged. But it is the ones that don't have any of that technology that we're a little bit concerned about. And encouraging our clubs to continue to reach out to those members by phone to make sure that they're all connected. How about you guys? What are you guys doing?
Very, very similar problems. You know, at least probably a fair amount of our membership across Australia, at least anyway, most are on emails, so we're able to communicate that way. But a lot of clubs are moving over towards.
I think the important thing is that trying to get that interaction though. We might have a lot of members on email, but they've never done the video chat on Messenger or a Zoom meeting or a go-to meeting. They've never done that aspect of it, and that's the part they're a bit scared about. And so it's really, because email is good, but it's still very one-sided, isn't it? Because there's got none of that interaction. So we're trying to encourage that at least, you know, visual interaction, and so you can see other people. You know, otherwise I think, you know, email's going to have, I think, a limited effect.
Yeah, but at least in that the Probus age group, because they want to stay connected with their grandchildren, they're probably more quicker to respond.
Some of them do. I mean, look, you know, the highest group of Facebook users is 55 plus. So I think there's going to be different groups of people, aren't there? Some of them are going to be really good at it, and some of them are going to struggle a little bit. But we're looking to promote, you know, tutorials, and we'll hold our own, you know, webinars and things like that about how they do stuff, just to help them stay connected throughout this crisis. You know, which will hopefully, you know, end soon. It doesn't sound great, but you've got to keep praying for a miracle, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. Malcolm, have you got any questions?
Yeah, well, the Probus is a child of Rotary. Rotary was the initial inspiration for it, wasn't it?
Correct. Yep, absolutely. So I actually, in all my presentations that I do, I actually say that Probus is the brainchild of Rotary, because we are, as I said before, we are Rotary's greatest community activity for seniors. It was founded by 5 Rotarians here in Australia.
Yeah, but of course there is some overlapping. There must be some overlapping, because Rotarians they want mental stimulation and activity as well. But I suppose it's really just what emphasis you want to put on things. I think the Probus is more a social activity.
Absolutely. Look, I think there is some overlap. I think there's a lot of benefit that really comes from being in Rotary. But I think the single point of difference really is that, you know, we aren't a fundraising organisation. and we are just all about the fun. And so, you know, I think the two organisations have worked well side by side, and I think, you know, they can continue to work well. I am actually working on an article with one of our current directors, who's the Rotary appointed director, Ari, at the moment, to talk about that for the next issue of the Rotary magazine, just talking about the synergies between the two. I think there's a great opportunity for Rotary to gain more members, not from Probians, but from their children and from their grandchildren, because they would be, I guess, your target market, I would have thought. And there's lots of opportunities there. I mean, I would love to know how many Rotarians there are in Probus and vice versa. Barry, I'm not sure if I told you, but I've been for so long that I've been in Probus. I'm not a member of Probus, but I work for Probus. Only last year, or I think late the year before, was I invited to my very first Rotary meeting, and that was the Rotary Club of Parramatta Daybreak, and it was a breakfast meeting, and I walked in, and I think there was about maybe 20 people there, tops, but half of them were Probians. So it'd be interesting to know what that split is across the board. But.
Yep.
Yes, well, with Daybreak Club, you had Jack Elliott there, who helped form the Parramatta District Probus Club, along with our club as well. But Jack was a very big supporter of Probus.
Yeah, of course, you yourself are a young woman.
Oh, and, thank you very much. That's going to be the nicest thing I've heard all week, I'm sure.
You've got to spend all your working time with us old fogies.
No, not true at all. I spend a lot of time travelling. When I first got this gig as financial controller, I did say to the board, I said, I really don't like travelling. And the chairman pretty much said, get used to it. I think I've been, since I got this job, I think 2016, I've been to New Zealand 4 times, and all over Australia a few times, doing presentations very similar to this and hosting information days and training sessions and all that sort of stuff. And I actually love getting out and meeting Probus members, because I think, although I'm not crazy about the travel, I think that's the only way to stay connected with your community. You can do emails and you can do all sorts of things. I think you've got to get out there and talk and have a good conversation and find out what's really going on to make sure that you stay connected. That's really important.
Yeah. Has anyone else got questions at this stage? No? Well, Silvana, thank you so much for coming along today.
It's okay.
As usual, you're very informative, very precise with the information you're giving us, and it was a lovely presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It was lovely meeting you all via the visual aid. But anyway, it was lovely meeting you all. And feel free to call me if you ever have any questions or if there's anything I can help with.
Well, when we get together physically, we'll get you down to the club and
that'd be great. I'd love it.
Meet in the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that, and hopefully that will be soon.
Sure. So we're going to stay online now because we're going to have a board meeting.
Are you going to tell me to go away?
If you don't mind, that'd be great. Or if you join your member.
Oh, I'm just trying to figure out how to get it. Oh, no, hang up now. Bye-bye, everybody. It was lovely to meet you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye. Okay. Who else we've got here today? Oh, we got Ian. How are you, Ian?